I wasn't raised in a Christian home. My father was a worker, hard worker, and I loved him. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad was under severe bondage with alcohol. He had a real hard problem with that, and I saw that as a youngster growing up, and I saw how that related to my life. Right around 10 years old, I had my first drink of alcohol. By the time I was 11, I had tried a marijuana cigarette, a joint, whatever you want to call it. And by the time I had turned 17, I had impregnated, I know of at least one woman, and I made her get an abortion. It was terrible. But to mask that, I would drink heavy, and that would kind of take that feeling. I would still feel guilt and anger, and I didn't know what I was feeling exactly. But, I had taken a life, and that was my choice. So by the time I was 17, I was a junior in high school, and it was the second day of school. I got up that morning. I felt empty. I felt bankrupt. Just, I don't know if spiritually is a good word, but just morally bankrupt. So my mom was making breakfast, so I snuck into my dad's bedroom and I pulled out his .22 pistol and I loaded it, and I was done. I was finished. So I took the gun, so I aimed it at my heart. So I looked away. I didn't want to see it happen, and I pulled the trigger. The bullet ripped through my intestines and bounced off my back hip bone and landed in my back. And I spent a week in the ICU, and most people would say, oh, that was your salvation moment, that's the point where you got saved. It wasn't. It took 29 years of running, just turning, running. I got stabbed. I had barroom fights, 2 DWIs. My first marriage just disintegrated. I had a daughter with my first wife, and I lost custody of her. I just had placed the focus all on me, what I felt like doing, and never on anything else, even with family coming into the picture. I could not take that focus off myself. So, that was basically, drug-laden, alcohol, just anything I could get my hands on to fill that emptiness that I had inside, which worked for a little while, but it never really filled that hole that I had. And then in the year 2000, I had been separated from my first wife, and I met my current wife, Michelle, and she was a breath of fresh air, but she had her own things going on too, as far as bondages. So we met, we started dating, and I married her. And she brought 3 children into the situation with my daughter. And to say it came together like the Brady Bunch isn't exactly how it didn't happen. I had stopped drinking for a little while. I had always stopped drinking. Willpower would take me so far, and then I'd just fall back into that same wagon ruts again. That was the comfortable, easy thing to do. So I started drinking again. My second wife, Michelle, was getting very, very tired of that, and she was just about ready to leave me. And she met some people from Richville Christian Fellowship, this church in Richville, and she started going there and hearing the Word of God. I did not participate in that, nor did I want to. So as I would get more and more drunk, I would come home at night. I would berate her. I would put her down. I would tell her, "You're cheating on me," this and that, and just verbally abuse her. And she would wait till I was drunk enough. I would pass out in the bed next to her, and she would lay her hands on me, pray for me. I was getting prayers from a lot of the people in Richville, which I knew later. Later on, I learned that. My wife, God spoke to her and said, "Please take your hands off him and let me do the work that I need to do." And then the day that I asked Christ into my life is a day I will never forget. It was the third Wednesday of August, 2010. I worked at the phone company out of Potsdam for years, 16 years. And some of the guys would get together every morning and they would go to breakfast. And that consisted of coffee, bagel, and talk about everybody else except yourself. And that's what it consisted of. So that morning, we were sitting there, a beautiful sunny morning, about 5 or 6 of us sitting around the table. We were sitting there, and this young man came in to the restaurant. He worked there as a dishwasher. He was on public assistance. He had a 5-year-old son, and that morning, his son had died somehow. Just had died. I don't know exactly what the cause was. I never really did find out. But he came in, he was crying. And he sat at there was a counter. And he talked to the owner and he said, my son just died. And he said it loud enough to one of the guys heard it that was at my table. And he said to me, I can remember this clear as day, he said, "Well," he goes, "that's one more welfare bum we're not going to have to feed." That hit me so hard. I don't know if you ever remember the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoons with the Acme anvil falling on his head. It just hit me so hard at what I had become. I walked out that door and I asked God, I said, "Will you please take this from me? I'm so sick of this." I said, "I don't know what this is going to entail. I don't know what you got for me, but please, I believe in you, and I know that I'm sick of this life, and I give it to you." And I felt like there was this yoke that was lifted off me that day. It just felt like when you hold your fists for so long in the clenched fist position, the stress, and then let go. It was a release. It was letting go. So after that, I started to, Christ was living inside of me after that point. I didn't know what it was going to entail. I didn't know what way it was going to take me, but I knew that there had been this burden that had been lifted. So I lost a lot of friends, but I gained many, many more after a while. I surrounded myself with fellow Christians. As a new believer, made tons of mistakes, but I knew that something was different and that I had been recreated as something else, and the old had passed away and all things had become new. There came over me, it didn't all happen at once, but there was a peace. There were some things in my life that had changed where it used to just tear me up inside, and these were not tearing me up. I was praying, and I was asking the Lord to take these things, whatever His perfect will was in these situations. And that was just pure peace that I was getting peace. I was. And I still am. In lots of situations that just the world doesn't understand,